Uganda became independent from the British in 1962 when my father was just a boy. When I was a boy, I saw the extreme poverty in Uganda had its way of keeping us dependent on foreign aid. In that area, our journey to independence was not nearly complete. To become self-reliant, there were things I knew I needed that I was determined to find. And thankfully, there were things and people that I did not know I needed, which it would later feel like had been determined to find me. A courageous and kind of a reckless girl from some place called Colorado was one of those. Our story is a bit about adventure and pain and a team of unlikely friends fighting unlikely odds. And I would say it is also about what gaining independence actually means. But mostly, like a lot of African stories, it is about family. And it's about more than just us. About my childhood, I'm a born of one of 18 children from my dad. My mom only had 3 of us. My dad was Muslim and he was a polygamous. So he had 3 wives. My mom grew up in a family of probably 15 or so. She was one of the oldest. Their parents died when they're still young. So she carried the burden raising up her siblings. I remember one time, it was a big storm of rain that came and opened the roof. Our bedroom was like where we keep all the utensils, all the kitchen supplies. I mean, we had chickens and stuff. They were sleeping in our bedroom. So I had to climb up and pull the roof down, pulling it down and holding it, getting weight that whole night. And that day I told my mom, when I grow up, the first thing I'm gonna do is to change this house. We're not gonna live like this forever.
I grew up in the suburbs, Denver. All through high school, I loved coffee shops. And I worked at coffee shops. I loved the community aspect, right? I loved the idea of people coming together. You know, we had like a group of old men that would come in every day. And they would just sit and have community with each other. And I always felt like that was lacking in the life I was living. There wasn't a lot of that kind of community. And so that was like my dream, was to start a coffee shop. So I applied to the Lead School of Business at University of Colorado. I had a major identity crisis, like just really struggled to understand who I was, why I was there. I felt really out of place in the business school. If you make making money the purpose of life, you will spend your whole life, you know, wanting more, never feeling content, never feeling satisfied. And so many people never find purpose in that. And then some point in my sophomore year, my professor put on the screen Muhammad Yunus and explained the concept of microfinance. I literally Googled cheapest way to go to Africa and learn microfinance. An opportunity popped up, microfinance internship in Iganga, Uganda. I told my sister, Leah. So she's like, you can't go to Uganda without me. And then we had another friend, Sally, who was also a student at the University of Colorado. And she found an internship working at the main hospital in Iganga.
It was June of 2008. They were just living across the street from the house we were living in. At one point, we just walked down there and said hi to them. And by that time, Andrea was bald. She didn't have any hair on her head.
A woman had wanted to put braids in my hair, and it was so uncomfortable. So when we were taking the braids out, Sally was like, you should just shave your head. And I was like, I don't know, why would I shave it? She's like, it would just be so fun. Like, you should totally shave it. They get scissors and literally a local razor blade. And I had a white head. Everywhere I went in town, I was then known as Mzungu Empata, which means bald Mzungu. Every white person is Mzungu. It's not a negative term at all. It's just a descriptive term.
Andrea took me to this orphanage where she was volunteering and providing food. You know, the whole town would bring their trash and dump it there. It was a really total mess, very dirty.
I was like, Musongo, I ran. And then running was Andrea, seeing a person of a different color. She was just like a tourist attraction, let's say.
There were reasons that the kids were kept living like that. I mean, you can't go to a place like this orphanage and not feel like you have to do something because of the conditions.
The head of the organization would encourage us like, yo guys, let's go pray. So it was kind of our daily routine to go pray. And then she was like, if you don't pray today, you will not have what to eat. And sometimes we tested it. We would be there and pray, sing, no food, pray, no breakfast, pray, no dinner. And being a kid, now you start having that different mindsets. What if we run around and find food for ourselves? You know?
We could sleep on the floor, first of all, and the place was very dusty. We just sleep, no beds. All of us, like in this room, we put their mattresses. And some girls, they could go up and do their own things. They go and sleep with men because they want something to eat.
You go and ask him, where can I get some kind of breakfast to feed myself? And then someone is like, you fed it yourself. I found some kind of a bread being tied. And then there was a rat inside. I had to scrap off what the rat had shared, and then I had to eat that. I had to join the group. We just rob. Not because I wanted, but because the stomach I used to demand, and then... So there, more suffering started.
The more I went there, the more the kids just became like so special. It stopped being just this mob of kids and it started to be Demily and Rebecca and Solomon and Joseph and Joshua. You know, I got to know them.
My sunshine, my only sunshine, you make me happy when skies are gray. You never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine.
The head of the local government said, you have 2 days. We'll come and we'll kick all these kids out. Like, what do you mean? You're gonna send them, like, they're gonna just go where? We were praying and we were crying and we're like, oh my gosh, how do we rescue them? How do we make sure these kids don't end up on the street? You know, what if we start our own children's home? I mean, honestly, I don't think we had any idea how we were gonna do it. We just knew it had to happen.
One of the most powerful things for me was the conversation Andrea, Lee, and Sally really had. The passion and how intrigued they are. At part of me, I was like, of course they just don't understand Africa. They don't understand, the situation, but it was extreme.
They loved the song You Are My Sunshine. So I remember asking, like, what is sunshine in the local language? And they said Musana. And so we named it Musana. At that point, it was an idea. Sally and Leah both left. We needed them to go and share the stories and raise money. So I told them, like, I'm gonna stay and take these kids.
You're gonna stay in Africa in this situation for these kids?
I'll never forget calling my parents and telling them, especially my dad, like, I have to stay, I have to do this. And literally my dad said, Andrea, get your butt home. The government officials, everyone was looking at me like, you're crazy, go home. Like, you can go back. Everyone, and that's honestly, most people were like, you can go back after you graduate. Like, get a little older, get a little wiser. I got home one day and there was a burnt frog on a stick sticking out of my windowsill. What does this mean? And they're like, oh, that's a death curse. They told me you can't stay here anymore because you're too much of a risk.
I didn't see myself in the future dream of Musana. At this point, I'm like, I just want to help these kids to get out of this place. And I did not catch that in my heart very quickly, that I was falling in love with the kids.
Like, I'll never forget walking into the government official's office, and the director of the orphanage is sitting there, and he says to the orphanage director, you are going to give 80 kids to Andrea. You can keep 80 kids, but you give 80 kids, it'll help you, you'll be less burdened. So let Andrea take the 80 kids and let's see what she can do.
Somehow the district officials, again, I would say mostly trusted Andrea because they looked at us as like, young, we're just 20 years old. I think they had a lot of trust in Andrea, most especially seeing that she was representing aid. So there was trust there. Okay, if we give her the kids, she could do something to support them. But also me, with that, I was like, yeah, she's responsible. I don't have the resources to take care of these kids.
And at this point, we didn't know where we were taking them. We had no money. We had nothing. But I confidently was telling government officials and everyone, like, I have support. I have all these people back home that are gonna send money, and we're gonna be able to take care of these kids and give them a good life.
After hearing, we're just trying to raise money, I didn't know how that works, because what if you don't get it? What happens,
Sally and Leah were back in Colorado, and they were sharing photos and telling the story.
We're back at 9 and 10.
We introduced you to CU Boulder students Leah, Sally, and Andrea.
The girls have looked for help wherever they can to keep Musana going.
My mom was so essential in the beginning of Musana. Before even being here, she's calling her friends and being like, my daughter is in Africa and she's trying to take these 80 kids, please help. And so people were just started giving money. I had grown up being told to be the hands and feet of Jesus. I saw that if I was willing, God would take care of the rest. And so sometimes we just have to be willing. Especially when it's something that is so clearly what God wants for us, right? I mean, biblically, God talks over and over again about taking care of the orphans and the widows. So how can you go into an environment where you're seeing so many children abandoned and neglected and abused and walk away from that?
When the time came and they told us, you know what? We are taking you to another place, to a place called Musana.
September 16th, 2008 will always be the best day of my life. Driving with the kids from the other orphanage into the compound of Musana, and the excitement, and them getting out of the car and just screaming in joy.
Wow. We danced. We were like, the prayer is working. We should go to the altars.
Watching them line up, and saying, ready, go. I remember actually going through and thinking this kid would like these bed sheets. Most of these kids had never slept on a bed before.
And then coming in, I'm like, okay, look for your name on your bed. And the noise, and the voices of joy, them running and jumping, and you could see tears. I was just standing there with chills.
What a wonderful thing God has done for us. Yes.
And I gave them a hug and I gave them a kiss. And I said, you're home and you're safe.
But I couldn't believe I'm having a new life by then. I was like, maybe I'm just dreaming. They called me for supper. This is real. I'm not dreaming. That's the day I tasted some good food for the first time.
And at that point I thought, okay, job done, good. So I came home to my mom and my dad. I just told them, and you cannot believe this. There is this orphanage, there is all these kids that were living like this and so on. And there is these white people from America. And then they wanted to, to move these kids and have a home. And I was like, but I'm gonna go back because I just need to make sure everything is fine. So I go back, and the way the kids welcomed me back, they ran to me and they're like so excited. I mean, it was like 2 days of being away. And they're like, oh, uncle, we missed you, welcome back, And it was, I was like, just felt home. I felt home.
It was Haril, Morris, myself, and then I think we had 2 women and a security guard. That was it. That was Musana. Haril didn't understand how these kids had no relatives or had no parents. He was always very doubtful of that. So the first thing we did when we had these kids was we went to every single one of their villages.
And then we started learning more about these children. Some of these children were not orphans. Some of these children actually had parents.
We actually hired a social worker, and the Iganga probation officer moved with us. We did our best to find out the truth about these kids.
Learning that they had changed their names, they had told them to lie, they're orphans, and this was quite heartbreaking. And this took me into another journey of why?
The kids were trained to say that they had no mom, no dad, because they were told if you admit who you are, that you won't get the opportunity. In a way, that's on us, that's on the donors. By wanting to support only the orphans, we're in fact creating orphans. This orphanage was built on lies. Most of the kids, like Moses, When we went to the home, we were told that his mom was his grandmother.
My dad is a farmer, and my mom as well. So we are 6 of us, 3 girls and 3 boys. If it happens you never had a good harvest, prepare to starve for some time, till the next harvest. And then having the girls around, my dad was like, these girls should go to school. He met a friend who connected him to an orphanage.
I'm the only boy at home, like in my family, so I have like 4 sisters following me. I remember one time waking up so early in the morning, going to the market with my mom. By then I was around 8 years. Some guys, they wanted to take our money from us. After them beating up my mom, they started beating me up. There came up a certain woman, and then she was like, there's a place in Iganga which is taking care of kids. Maybe I can take him there so that he can have another kind of life.
Like watching them watch us discover that, no, these were in fact their parents, the burden that they felt, right, was lifted because they didn't have to hide anymore. Come into the light and have a true and honest and authentic relationship with God and a true and authentic relationship with Musana.
You're in a place you're not given food. Are you loved? You're in a place you're not like given shelter. Are you loved? So when I came to Musana, that's when I found love. They showed me I am loved and I can be loved, and I'm still loved up to now.
The reality is it all comes down to poverty, right? All these kids were vulnerable. And the reality is they all wanted their kids to have a better opportunity. If you could write a book on how not to run organization in Uganda, you could do a study on those first 2.5 years. I mean, it was a very typical, whoever has the money has the power. Even when we had 18-year-olds from the US come, they came with authority because they were representatives of the money. It was hard because I knew deep down it wasn't right? Like from the beginning, we wanted local ownership, we wanted sustainability. It wasn't like these were new concepts. I think trusting was a huge piece. Right? I mean, I had missionaries that had been here 20 years who were mentors to me, tell me, never give up power, never give up control. And so I was living in that, like, afraid of letting go. I carried a huge burden. And the pressure. I mean, I would say 95% of the time, I wanted to rip my hair out. I hadn't really gone home other than a few short trips. I mean, I had lost so much weight. I couldn't eat. Hair was falling out.
Andrea was, so burnt out. Being at the forefront, it was a big risk for me. And I would say for the most part, I never related so much with people who were already doing organizations or aid, because my perspective about that was very different. This is an opportunity for us locals to transform, the lives of our children. I told them, let's look at ourselves. If we do not have jobs, if we do not have education, if we do not have healthcare, it's like we are stripped naked. It's like we don't have value. And that means we have no dignity. So how do we revive our dignity? In our culture, it's not a nuclear family, it's an extended family. The community raises a child. In so many ways we have seen whether Americans or Europeans coming and investing their time, resources, and energy into solving problems here. And they end up breaking down, and regretting what did they do. People say, Africa is a basket with holes. You pour in, but it doesn't hold. But the biggest problem has been the approach. To coming into a community like Uganda, to come with a mindset that, I'm not going to be able to be the one to solve the problems that people have. What they lack is the resources, but they know it, that they can be the solution for their community. So even when they had the solutions, they didn't know that they can have a voice. And I think that was something that is reawakening to the local people. We have seen that when people are given value and honor, they're going to be able to think with you. They're going to learn from you, you're going to learn from them, and at the end of the day, you'll be able to work with them to solve the problems within their community. I would say majority of people in Uganda are religious people. They rely on Jesus. This is where their hope is. People believe all their abilities, all their life belongs to God. So you would see people now sacrificing their time, their energy, and everything, and they became invested. Once that is there, it uplifts people more than you can imagine.
Going back to school after 2.5 years living here, all the responsibility I had, it was so healthy for me. When I came back after 5 months, I couldn't believe how things had changed. It was humbling to know that Musana could run without me. It was a huge relief. It was humbling and it was a relief.
The only thing that is going to make an impact is something that is coming out of us, because it starts from inside. And what's inside me is no, we need to own this as the community so that it becomes our responsibility to change.
To be honest, no white person should ever start anything in Africa unless it is in partnership. But that's where I think the miracle of Musana comes in. In most charity models, you have a direct relationship between the donor and the beneficiary. And the donor supports a sponsored child to go to school. The donor supports a meal for somebody. What ends up happening is it leaves the rest of the community out. So the community is not engaged and they're not actively involved in caring for that beneficiary. How can the donor, instead of give directly to the beneficiary, really empower the community to be lifted up so that they can be the ones that support the most vulnerable?
Under these hopes and principles, in 2011, Musana Children's Home reorganized as Musana Community Development Organization.
We wanted Musana to be owned, not just owned on paper, but owned in the heart, owned in the mind. by the community. And so Musana was registered as a local NGO. And what that meant is we built a local board made up of Ugandans. I was the only non-Ugandan on the board. From then on, I would say we started working on figuring out ways of how to address the ultimate problem of poverty. What has really helped Musana create more ownership is the model of sustainability and enterprise instead of charity. Micro-enterprise kicks in. We run all of our projects as enterprises. And we have to raise whatever money we need to operate with local income.
Musana's model unfolded like this. Education, healthcare, and vocational training. Our community needed to build an economy, and we saw social enterprise as the most sustainable economic model. In 2009, Musana started his first school.
We had all these kids and we had to educate them. So we literally started just by hiring some teachers.
For us here in Uganda, we value education. So if my parents have taken me to school, that means I'm getting my future for tomorrow. So that's why our parents, they didn't want us to be what they were first, because they were struggling to bring us up.
In 2009, we were known as a children's home, and moms were just coming to our gates with their kids and begging us to take their kids.
By the end of 2009, Musana began to develop an empowerment center.
An example is Lydia. She had a little girl with her, and she was holding a baby. And the baby was basically dying. I mean, so sick. I mean, she said that she was 2, the baby, and she looked like she was 6 months. So Lydia was like, please take my kids. I don't have any way of providing for them. Their dad's not in their life. And this is just one story of many, but we were like, you know, we're not just gonna take your kids. All these women that were coming to us, wanting us to take their kids, we just started training.
I had a wholesale shop in the town. And when my husband passed away, the business collapsed. By the time I came to Musana, I had nothing. Because the house I had was taken when my husband passed away. Everything of mine was taken. Haril asked me whether I knew how to do tailoring. Then he offered me a job. I started making uniforms.
So right now, all Musana's uniforms are made by women at MEC.
In 2010, Musana hired a head teacher and began opening up the school to the rest of the community.
When you go to school, at least your mind's at least open. You see, you think wider. So when I went back to school, then I had some other things to think about. I could focus also home to think of my sisters being raised with a single mom. It's not easy here. It's not easy. I mean, here in Africa, some other children will just say, let me go and marry. I mean, like, let me just get someone I start a life. No matter the age, because they feel that's the end.
By 2011, boarding was added to Musana schools. In 2010, Musana opened Soul Cafe.
Remember I said I always wanted to have a coffee shop? So we started Soul Cafe. It transformed into a small little restaurant, just an income generator, a place to train locals on hospitality and how to run a restaurant.
I didn't even see it coming, for us, how the chemistry happened, for us, how we became more having feelings for each other. I came to my mom and dad and, what, mom and dad? I think there is something going on, with Andrea, but this is the problem. We work together. I don't know if it's the right thing. So I planned a trip to go meet a friend in Kenya. So she was like, oh, can I come along?
And we had our first kiss on the back of the bus going to Nairobi.
Wait a minute, did we really just do that?
For us, a kiss was more than a kiss.
Most of her family was coming to Uganda. So like, okay, why don't we invite everyone? Because it was hard to bring my family to the US for the wedding. It could not happen. We planned it for like a couple of weeks. It was a very small wedding. When I approached my family with that was very hard for them. They're like, that's not how we do weddings here. We plan for, some time. We contribute money together. We do this. You have to invite everybody, and I mean, there's like 1,000 people, like I know, and, that was already a cultural crash. And, all the things at that moment just made us closer to each other, but they made us closer to each other because we are the ones that knew each other the best.
One thing about taking care of a lot of kids is you make constant trips to the hospital. And you see a lot about the quality of care, the standards of care, the lines, the waiting. I gave birth to our first daughter in 2014 and had a really difficult delivery in Uganda. And I will never forget the morning after she was born. And I mean, it's like a miracle that she lived and that I lived. And just thinking, like, we women deserve a better place to give birth. Every woman deserves a chance to give birth in a safe environment where they have access to a NICU if their baby, like our baby, needed oxygen.
Andrea and I had been married for 3 years when Musana opened his first hospital in Iganga. In the same year that we opened the hospital, Soul Cafe transitioned to Soul View Restaurant and Convention Center. Musana began building his first high school in 2016, and it opened in 2017.
We're trying to raise our kids to be well-rounded, but it's also emphasizing on vocational skills. So every graduate is trained in, electrical or plumbing or bricklaying and construction and tailoring. In traditional charity, you would have maybe like a missions team, for example, come and build a home for a vulnerable family. And instead, you see these students, going into the deep villages and building these homes, and the pride that they feel, not just because they're practicing their skill and they're creating a beautiful home, but because they know the family that it's benefiting.
A year later, we opened a nursery and primary school in Bukona, another village in Iganga district.
From the beginning, people would tell us, you cannot run a school sustainably in Uganda. You cannot run a hospital sustainably in Uganda because people won't pay for it. People are too poor. And we've proven people want quality education for their kids. People want quality healthcare, and they are willing to pay for it. How do we know they're willing to pay for it? Because they're paying for it.
By 2018, 10 years from founding Musana, our social enterprises covered 100% of Musana's operational costs.
The donor builds the infrastructure. The local community owns it, sustains it. And right now, if Musana never received another dollar from a donor, everything that is happening in Iganga would continue. Social enterprises are developing the community. Schools and hospitals and empowerment centers and guest houses and restaurants that are creating jobs. Those enterprises are profitable, and those profits support the charity component of Musana. 30% of the kids in our schools are on scholarship. They can't afford the full tuition or any tuition, some of them any tuition at our schools. And so they're being supported by the income raised locally.
In 2020, we expanded Musana's model to Kaliro district.
Since COVID, we've actually made it a huge focus to involve teenage moms.
I bought land, I built that house. This daughter of mine stopped schooling during Corona time, got pregnant. So I didn't have to send that girl away. I stayed with her. She produced, and now I stay with them at home.
We have many teenage moms, hundreds of teenage moms that have come through.
I teach them skills. Some of them are still here. Some of them are outside. Some of them have started their own businesses.
These are moms that would give their kids up to orphanages if they aren't given the opportunity to be able to provide for their own kids.
At times you feel like there is something that has pushed you somewhere. Like being loved builds you up. Like you feel you're someone. You feel you can make a change. You feel like you can provide beyond your capacity just because you're loved. There is a nurse we met in the hospital. The kind of care they give, I was like, I can become one of them. I can do what they are doing. At least I believed I can become someone better. Yeah. Here I am now. I'm a nurse, a graduate. Now that I'd gotten out of school, I had something like a pay. I'm carrying the responsibility of the 4 sisters now.
First of all, being in a life that no one cares, and then coming to a life where someone is caring, there is a big change in mindset. I did mass communication at college. I got a job in Musana. I am able to help my other relatives, you know. Me and my parents right now, we are like so together that we're able to share what is happening day-to-day life, what is not working out well. And then being able to provide. There is hope and there is life.
When they brought us at Musana, I was the oldest one among them. So I could take care. I grew up with that thing in my heart because I could love young children so much and I could take care of them. So it impressed me so that I can be a teacher. Because being a teacher, you have to do something which will help that child's heart. So I think Andrea and Haril, so what they did, it is now what I am.
Looking back, our community may never have found Musana without Andrea, her sister and friend, making an impractical choice not to leave us. When Andrea returned to Iganga after finishing her education, I feel she returned home. And finding a home, it turns out, is about the most practical thing anyone can do.